All right, everyone, we should be live. We're a few minutes early here. Let's make sure that is actually the case. Typically, it's 7 a.m. Eastern time. That's roughly when I'm going live. I'm just going to start it a few minutes early here and make sure that Rumble is working. I do see that chat is working. My happy hour, says Buddy Mac 13. It's clanker time. Make sure that we're actually live there. The video is working. Yes, indeed. The video is working on Rumble. Everything's lined up. Let me check my tabs here. Make sure all the news stories will actually come up when I need them. Semi-important when you're doing a news roundup live stream. Only semi-important, though. I could just rant for an hour. I think some people would enjoy that. I decided to nix the old Q&A format, which was just like, me sitting there and answering questions and taking comments. Because I'm intrigued by news so much. I've got too many actual news topics to cover, generally speaking, certainly for the one-off videos that I make. So that's basically the reasoning behind it. I want to be able to cover everything that's pertinent, and we've got 9 lined up for today, and that's on the low end. Sometimes it's 12 or 13, so we'll see what happens. TJ Daigle, you always say 7 a.m. Eastern, but it's 8 Eastern. Oh, okay. Well, my computer's wrong then. I don't know. I hate time zones. Fucking hate them completely. I can never get them worked out. I never know what time it is. Hell, I barely know what day it is usually. I'm not good at scheduling things. Anyway, we'll get to the first and very important news story here. Joe Biden goes completely fucking insane and threatens a significant proportion of the U.S. population. Now, on Disclosed.tv, Biden, for those brave right-wing Americans, if you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15. You need something a little more than a gun. He sounds just like Bush, by the way, saying these things. Who is threatening to fight against the country would be my question. There are warnings that if Trump is indicted, there may be rioting. That's not a threat. It's a fair warning to people, especially since it's a witch hunt. Nobody is attempting to rise up. This boogeyman of the evil far-right hit squads and stuff like that has been basically a boogeyman this entire time. That's number one. Number two, the Taliban says hi. The Viet Cong say hi. the starving North Koreans and Chinese in the Korean War say hi. No, you don't actually need more than a gun. The U.S. military, I think, would be very, very reluctant to deploy F-15s or maybe more modern planes as well, over its own skies in order to decide to kill large numbers of Americans. You see the problem. Let me rant for a little bit about the U.S. military and its projected force. Very, very good against pirates. Very, very good against standing armies. Very, very good at subverting foreign forces by arming and establishing supply lines like we are in Ukraine against standing armies. Very, very poor at asymmetrical warfare. And that's on foreign shores where if you conduct a drone strike and you accidentally take out a school, it doesn't really matter because the U.S. public doesn't know about it for an extended period of time. You can lock it down in half-true news and say, well, we think that there might have been damage to this local school. The casualty counts are not fully tallied up by UN reporters at the moment. Might be a couple months till you know how many little kids were killed. It'd be kind of difficult to do that on U.S. territory when the U.S. public would literally be there watching the school get blown up. You can't really deploy symmetric force on domestic soil without mass casualties, and that would cause people to be much more receptive, in my opinion, to any revolutionary force that would spawn. Now, that's clearly not going to happen. Joe Biden is just mouthing off. I would also point out, it's interesting for Joe Biden to say you need something more than a gun to fight the U.S. military. I mean, that's historically not the case anyway, but we'll get past that. When you're also trying to ban many of those guns because you think that they're military grade. It's very, very intriguing. It's also unconstitutional. We know that. In the wake of the Bruin decision, his bullshit about the AR-15 is basically a dead issue. This is a threat to a significant proportion of the American population, and I'm trying to think about what the reaction would be if something similar were uttered by Donald Trump. I have a feeling it would be rioting. and mass protests and the legacy media calling for impeachment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Trump is clearly unhinged. He's threatening the U.S. population. He's talking about Antifa or liberals in general. Well, you can't stand against the U.S. military. You're going to need more than those pea shooters, so come at me, bro. He would be removed from office probably if he had uttered the same exact thing that Joe Biden is uttering now. Effectively, the warmongering of the lame establishment has gravitated away from we must kill brown people overseas in Afghanistan, Iraq, or whatever, to, hey, basically a direct challenge to elements of the domestic population. Again, no other president at any point in time in American history, other than maybe the Civil War era, would be able to get away with saying something roughly akin to this and not get removed from office. The fact is that Joe Biden is deranged. He is a definite threat to the U.S. Republic. He should be removed from office. He should be 25th. This is not the sort of thing that a sane person would say. He's effectively taking what Eric Swalwell, which we'll treat upon separately for his own foibles, by the way, said previously, which was, well, the U.S. military has nuclear weapons. Your AR-15 is meaningless. Yes, great idea. Nuke your own cities to own the right wing. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. No sane person would utter this. Certainly no sane person who supposedly, at least, represents the U.S. public. That's what a president or a steward in his case is supposed to do. He's basically just, he's in the little boy's chair next to the throne. He doesn't really occupy the office of the presidency because his mind is gone. And we see that here. And you'll notice one thing that does give me a little bit of happiness here is that nobody was clapping or cheering when he said this. And he has to turn around and say, well, come on, think of it, man. You know, and blusters on endlessly while looking at the people behind him as though they're supposed to back him up in the idea that you're supposed to kill tens of millions of Americans should they get a little bit spicy because you're ruining the country. I thought that part was good. Poor Biden. And by the way, his polls are falling again. Just to be clear, Herschel Walker, by the way, in 2 consecutive polls, actually pulling ahead of Warnock. If Herschel Walker can manage to win after the problems that he's had in his candidacy, it's all over for the midterms for the Democrats. The idea of this blue wave or the receding of the red tide or whatever that they're depositing right now is false. It's not going to happen. Cold Warrior, does anyone really know what time it is? Does anyone really care? I usually don't care because I have my own schedule. I literally just wake up when the baby wakes up and or the cat wakes me up and or the baby. And then I go about my day. I love it. I edited 20 pages of literature also this morning. Keep in mind, I do my one-off videos. I do the live streams virtually every day. I edit every day. I write material most days. I also have to go to the store. I cook. I clean. I've got things figured out, and I wouldn't have it any other way because I am a workaholic. I didn't used to be. I turned myself into one out of necessity many years ago, and I never looked back, and thank goodness that I did. You should do it too. Become a workaholic. Get addicted to doing things that are productive. I swear to you that it'll make your life better. Simple Logic 90. Do you think Schumer is waiting till after the midterms before he brings the assault weapons ban to a vote in the Senate? It's not going to happen. They're not going to have the votes. They won't have the House. They won't be able to use reconciliation. They can bring it forward to a vote, but it won't pass. Mr. 05 Chuck. Hello, baby. How old are you? Double digits? Sweet. Yeah, Biden keeps having moments like that. Gaffes. It's not really a gaffe. It's more he goes off script and starts talking creepily to teenaged girls. Sometimes he goes a little bit higher and they're more like college age. Alan Anti-State. Stup, Stixie boy. On my way to another state. Hee hee. Got a few of your books the other day. Love you. Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, the books are good. Iggy the Incubus. 1 is anomalous. 2 is coincidental. 3 is a pattern. I don't like the pattern of a president threatening military action on his own people. Go ahead and bring me to the cackler. Yeah, he's done this before. The Democrats definitely, they're looking for an excuse to kill a bunch of people. I guess there's no major wars going on at the moment that they can directly take part in. So that bloodlust is just sort of simmering inside. And all of the Liz Cheneys and Meghan McCains of the world, who have basically become Democrats too, along with the Romneys, they just want someone to kill. They would love to purge 10, 20 million U.S. citizens. I genuinely believe that they would find that funny. Not a banned account. Our U.S. military is in the same staffing position as the opening of World War II. Top-heavy with political but not tactically minded officers, competent, enlisted. True. And many of those lower officers and enlisted men would never pull the trigger if they were commanded to do so on domestic soil. Just to be clear, I think it would be a little bit beyond the pale for a lot of them. Sebastian Monroe. It would be uncouth to send pics of lewd Asians to Smallwell as a reply to his dumb takes. Very uncouth if you print them and mail them to his office. I'm not encouraging that. I just think that the dude's completely off his rocker. Biden's even more off his rocker, though. Again, if you imagine Reagan, Herbert Walker, Clinton, Obama, Bush, any of the other recent presidents saying something akin to what Joe Biden is saying now, they would be removed from office immediately. They would be 25th. There would be a vote of no confidence. The entire cabinet resigns. They would have sub 10% approval, and they would end up being forced to resign. And they would have to go on, on the last roundup, they'd have to go on to Sundown Ranch. Joe Biden, because he's so clearly demented and because Orange Man bad, somehow is not getting raked over the coals by the legacy media. The Ahagao faces, I want a funny Fumo Stick, Sex, and Hammer plushie. There will never be Stick, Sex, and Hammer plushies. It will never occur. I'd have my mom hand knit them. That'd be funny. Maybe I'll do something like that. Hey, you want to be part of the meme team? The Stick, Sex, and Hammer meme team? We'll get much more attention than the Elizabeth Warren one. Next news story. This is a severe Trump derangement syndrome at every level, and I love this. I chose to use this tweet as opposed to an actual news story, and I didn't archive it so that you can see the responses for yourself. I chose this because it's just so off the goddamn rails. This is one of the greatest things that I've ever seen in my natural born days. I love modern politics. I fucking love my job, and this is one of the key reasons why. Michael Beschloss, and who does he work for again? Just a sec, let me fact check it. NBC News. He's the author of 9 books. NBC News presidential historian. Host of Fireside History, MSNBC Peacock Special Series. PBS contributor. Born in Chicago. We can tell you were born in Chicago. You must have drank the water there, tainted with lead, because clearly you have some brain damage. This is a picture that's part of the DOJ filings with regards to the Mar-a-Lago raid. This photo clearly suggests that the ex-president shows great respect for the importance of classified documents, right? And it's the now infamous picture of a bunch of purportedly top secret and classified documents sitting on the floor with the ruler next to him. And they've got 2A listed there because it's part of a batch. And for some odd reason, instead of moving the next box with the time covers that are framed for some reason, Trump does have an ego. Instead of moving those out of the way and putting these all sort of orderly, they just sort of stacked them on the floor. I guess they didn't think they had time during the raid. Let me ask you something. Do you believe that Donald Trump left a bunch of top secret and classified material laying on the floor? Or do you believe that these were put on the floor specifically to photograph them? I would say one important thing. There are blank pieces of white paper over multiple documents, including documents that are underneath others, indicating that they were moved. These were posed for a photograph to be taken by the FBI. It's pertinent to their case. They decided to submit it to the court, et cetera, et cetera. There's no staging or any problem with this, but that's clearly what this depicts. Trump did not leave these documents sitting on the floor. Why is it that so many people are pretending that these documents were found in this condition when they have been redacted by white sheets of carefully cut paper stacked on top of one another? And the reason that I'm giving the tweet is not because of that. His hot take is clearly wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But he's from NBC News, so I don't expect anything better. And I responded, you realize these were surely posed there by the FBI agents for photographic purposes? Yes. Yes. I'm hoping that you realize that. Apparently, though, most of his brain dead followers did not, because none of them, as far as I can see here, are actually pointing that out. Von Agnes, the same way he treats hardworking Americans. So, in other words, he puts them in a box and the FBI takes them out to photograph them. Okay. Not at all. They meant nothing to him, says Charlene Green. Well, they were carefully stored. They were taken out for photographic purposes. None of these people seem to understand the situation as far as photographing evidence pertinent to this case. Why it would be. Ukrainian flag in bio, by the way. They're beautiful. Only the best top secret documents. I like how people are claiming that these are nuclear documents. By the way, you don't have any fucking clue what's in them. Swalwell was doing that earlier. Well, these documents protect our soldiers, and look at the disrespect. They're lying on the floor. Well, first, they weren't on the floor to begin with. Secondly, you don't have any fucking clue. You have no security clearance. You're just a member of the House of Representatives. You have no clue what's in these documents beyond what you've been given and the public given by a heavily redacted affidavit and an inventory list that doesn't say anything specific. KT, I stand with Ukraine. It's despicable. I am so pissed. Who gives a fucking shit? Nobody cares if you're pissed. As my southern mom would say, oh my hell. Well, she's going to hell because she just swore. And, you know, we all know that's Satan's temptation, right? Yeah. No, Michelle pointing out. With a framed Time magazine cover on the side. Yes, those are clearly classified materials that needed to be removed from the Mar-a-Lago. If anything, the fact that they included that on the side is God, it's a cell phone. Yeah. Jordan Catalano, I keep seeing this pic. Is it a shot of how agents discovered the items stored? Are you goddamn brain dead? Yes, Trump stored these on the floor, and he happened to put white pieces of paper over the juicy details just to leave them there, sitting on the tacky carpet, which it is. I'll admit that. The carpet in there is not highly decorative. Looks like it's from the 70s or something like that. I mean, come on. These people are so gullible. And these are the people that swear up and down that Donald Trump will be in jail, by the way. People that are completely gullible, have no clue what's going on. It's hilarious on every level. And Michael Beschloss, again, is supposedly one of these people working for NBC and contributor to PBS. Why are you listening to these people? Yes, you didn't understand this was an evidence photo. You thought that Trump had them laid out on the floor and they just put the ruler next to it. Just spur of the moment, just on a whim. Voice in the Wilderness 85. American troops will definitely shoot American citizens. Look at the early 20th century alone. Federal troops have no problem killing people. Those are smaller engagements, a little bit different from a general uprising by presumably tens of millions of people. According to Brandon, this is likely to happen. He just wants an excuse to try to glass people with a nuclear weapon. PMC, I want a life-size body pillow of Styx X and Hammer, old leather jacket, please. Giggity. It's funny, there are probably some people that would buy that too. Almost considering contracting a sex doll firm for a meme release. Oliver Smith, Joe Rogan recently said Obama was the best POTUS in his lifetime. In your opinion, what characterized his presidency in a particularly negative way? Well, Fast and Furious comes to mind. The AP spying scandal comes to mind. The pig in a poke ACA in and of itself with the ACA mandate comes to mind. Completely ignoring foreign policy in an ignorant way. You'll notice that ISIS as the JV team didn't age particularly well. You've got Solyndra and Shovel Ready. That didn't work out too well. Massive hundreds of billions spent on bailing out golden parachute CEOs in mega corporations while the American people spent half a decade suffering. The Obama presidency was not a good time. And there, for some reason, are people with nostalgia about it. I suppose that they're just comparing it to Joe Biden's ignorant administration, his stewardship so far. The fact is that Obama was a 3 out of 10 president at best. There were a couple of things that he did that made sense. He got out of the way of the oil and gas expansion, allowing fracking, allowing more drilling and stuff, even though the environmentalist lobby opposed it. So that's a good thing. And he freed up relations with Cuba. I supported that at the time, still do. Cuba is not exactly a military threat. It's not 1960 anymore. So Simple Logic 90. I only ask about the assault weapon ban because I didn't know that it could just sit on it until after the midterms, hoping that they could win in 2022, or if it would have to go back in the House. They can go ahead and pass it in the Senate, but yeah, I mean, the House does have to actually pass any legislation, and they're not going to. They don't have the ability to ban the so-called assault weapons. LP, that's about all. Peace out. Sebastian Monroe, what's with all these old ladies and Mel Gibson lookalikes? They're kind of people who reply to you out of a sample I've taken, all got a hero complex. RT Huxley, who would you take in a fight, Sticks? The Irish Candyman Sam Hyde or Happy Harry Hassan Turnpike? Oh yeah, Peter Thiel supposedly bought Dominion. Oh, he bought Dominion? No, that's news to me. I know that he buys up everything else in sight that he can get a hold of, though. Yeah, I think that Sam Hyde would win against Hassan Piker fairly easily. James Rucco, service guarantees citizenship. 8-Bit Panda Strike. Hey, Sticks, longtime clanker, first-time donor. Keep up the good work. Like industrial music with a sense of humor? Check out 8-Bit Panda Strike. No, Nova Sim pilot, I have not learned how to ride a bicycle, and probably never will. I mean, I wouldn't dare to train on a bicycle on the bike lanes here in the Netherlands. I was on the highways of southern Texas. I would much rather go down the fucking Autobahn than go on a bike lane in the Netherlands. Saw a chick get hit by a car, actually, the other day. She was coming through the intersection, and a car didn't slow down quite enough in time. Thankfully, she wasn't injured. She got up and walked away from it. But she got hit by a car and it knocked her bike over. Bike wasn't injured. Chick wasn't injured. Good. But yeah, that was like 10 yards in front of me. I'm like, oh, yeah, what a fun day. Next news story. Grassley and Johnson call for Facebook to turn over communications with the FBI over the Hunter Biden story. Zuckerberg recently admitted Facebook censored reports on the Hunter Biden laptop after the FBI warned them about Russian propaganda. Again, let me detail the one most important thing here. Well, technically, it's two things. Number one, we're supposed to believe it was entirely coincidental that the Hunter Biden laptop story begins being concocted just within days of the FBI warning Facebook about this. So it had nothing to do with it. It was coincidental timing, nothing to do with it whatsoever. Secondly, the same FBI and others who told us that the laptop was Russian disinformation were making effectively the claim to Facebook of something entirely similar. And in the interior, within the FBI, something similar as well. Within the FBI, according to a whistleblower that we've recently talked about, they didn't want to affect the election by delving into the Hunter Biden laptop. Despite knowing that it wasn't Russian disinfo, because that is not alleged by the whistleblower who claims interior knowledge of the goings-ons at the Federal Bureau of Investigation, they then astroturfed the concept that it was Russian disinformation to the entire public. Yes, we absolutely should have these communiques. There absolutely needs to be an investigation. It's more important to investigate this than to counter-investigate the J6 committee. This is a huge scandal. We had a cover-up by the U.S. government or elements thereupon, and legacy media and big tech, which he was censoring people for a while for even mentioning Hunter Biden. We have a huge cover-up involving multi-billionaires, the communications industry, tech in general, elements of the government, etc., into not telling the American public what the hell was going on. They claimed that the releases were not real. They claimed that the Russians were involved, but they knew that it wasn't. They knew it because their internal communications don't mention Russia at all. They just say, well, we don't want to affect the election again. Don't look into this too deeply. So it's a lie. It's a gigantic lie. Zinc Orby, Joe Rogan is voting Republican and suggests his viewers do too as well. Haha. Yeah, I saw that. I talked about that the other day. Joe Rogan has effectively endorsed the Republican Party because of lockdownerism. We'll be talking about China fucking itself in the ass with lockdowns as well. Michael Cricklow, have you ever tried making guacamole? Yes, and I make it very, very well because I learned it when I was in Texas living with people who are actually from Mexico. I know how to make real guacamole, just like I can make real tacos and real enchiladas and shit like that. It's not meant to be health food. Well, the guacamole is relatively healthy, but and I don't want the Jeb Bush guacamole, in other words. I know how to make it the real way, the real, authentic, actual fucking from Mexico way. And once you have it that way, you don't want it any other way. The Dutch do not know how to make guacamole. They overload it with so much goddamn garlic that it might as well be an Italian dish. Try it. Come to the Netherlands sometime. Go to the store and get guacamole from Albert Heijn or Jumbo. See how it tastes. It's nothing like what you get when you're among people who are actually from, Mexico. Not even close. I don't even know. I mean, who would eat it? I'm just wondering who would find it palatable, because there's so much garlic in it, it stings your tongue. But it's not like, oh, okay, you've added some spice, you've added some jalapeno or whatever, you've added some hot sauce. No, it's pure garlic. It's like chewing on garlic. If I want that, I'll just take a garlic clove and I'll put it in my mouth and I'll chew it up and torture myself. Rusty Shackelford. If they sent F-15s after us in Iowa, we'd have to retrofit crop sprayers into fighters. Yeah, by the way, you can actually get fighter jets and make them fully operational fairly easily. Just so that the Bidenites out there are aware, U.S. civilians can buy tanks and machine guns, certainly Gatling guns, mortars and shit like that, grenade launchers. They are available. They're just quite expensive. Yeah, guacamole does not need 10,000 pounds of garlic in it. That's not the way that it works. Apparently, it's because, I know why. They wanted to make it spicy and ethnic tasting, but they don't understand the concept of jalapenos or anything like that, as evidenced by the salsas that I've had. The only salsa that I've had in this country that was reasonably spicy was the goddamn Doritos nacho dip made in the USA. Holy shit. Dystopian 1984, Warhammer, Civil War, Tim Pool. Do you think it'll actually happen, or is it already going on? There's a civil Cold War going on, I suppose. James Bonnell, have you committed any time into addressing the upcoming Q reveal? No, because it's a liberal LARP, and I refuse to give it any attention. QAnon, Blue Anon, all this horse shit. People getting distracted from doing something that's actually politically relevant by following dumb threads on 4chan and elsewhere and claiming that they have some sort of inside Nostradamus-like knowledge from somebody who's in the higher echelons of the deep state. Yeah, just trust the plan, dude. Trust it until you're in the grave. Michelle Bode on Rumble. Hey, Sticks, I make the best hummus. Do you? Never tried making it, but now you've got me interested in trying. No, I make excellent food. I make good Mexican food, and I make good Indian food. I understand spices more than many people who are from a New England background. Ben Chaffin, you can make pipe mortars that shoot bowling balls. Sounds like the striker from Fallout. Anyway, next news story. Business Week. YouTube went on a video purge to boot terrorism off its platform and stem an advertiser exodus. But its approach to extremism had a glaring blind spot. White nationalism. And then they've got their fucking news story. In its early years, YouTube, like many of its Silicon Valley peers, took a permissive approach when it came to content moderation. Those were the good old days, by the way. The company wrote a 70-page manual for moderators. Use your judgment, suggested one page. If only they still did that. YouTube was much better prior to 2015 or thereabouts. Things changed with the rise of the Islamic State. Members of one militant group began uploading slick cinematic propaganda to the site. One former publicist remembers dealing with beheading every day. The content was a nightmare for YouTube. And so then they fucking, decided to censor people who had nothing to do with the Islamic State. So once again, they're trying to push more censorship on YouTube. I'm simply going to ask one pertinent thing. And it doesn't really affect me at this point because I'm big on new tech, so I don't give a fucking shit what YouTube does. Who are you going to ban? Like, who's left on the platform that would comport to anything remotely like this? There is no extremist content on YouTube. You hyper-moderate the entire site. The big problem on YouTube is spam, scams, those are the two big ones, and algorithmic distortion, which YouTube engages in itself. Those are the big problems with the platform. It's very funny. Rumble's still on the App Store, has much more restricted TOS than YouTube. Even they don't get panned like this. Business Week just wants its competitors booted off the platform. They want people like me who are breaking no law, encouraging breaking no law, We're not infringing any copyright. We're literally doing nothing illegal, nothing unconscionable. They want people like me gone because they don't want to compete with us because they can't win, because they're not interesting, because they can't say fuck on their broadcasts like I can. I can call somebody a cunt on my broadcast. Nobody bats an eye, nobody cares. They're not going to do so because of their so-called integrity. Their mission statement won't allow it. They hate people like me that are fully independent because if somebody's not, let's say they've got 5 or 6 corporate contracts sewn up. So, fucking Nike is sponsoring them, McDonald's and shit. They have to watch their language. They have to watch out for certain issues. They have to mince words at the very least and maybe avoid subjects. They don't have to lie to people about the subject, but they might not talk about it. Well, there was a riot here, but it seems racially charged. I think I'll avoid this one. Hey, guys, let's talk about my Funko Pop collection. People like me, though, they can't control because we don't have any corporate contracts. There's nobody telling me what to think, what to do. Again, I fucking goddamn love this. We're the enemy of the legacy media. We're the ones that are making the intriguing content. There's a reason almost 4,000 people are watching just on YouTube right now. There's a reason almost 5,000 are watching cross-platform, because I'm interesting, and I'm not the only one. And they want us all banned because we are interesting, and they are not. It's as simple as that. Who else is going to go off into a diatribe about proper guacamole while covering news topics, by the way? I think I've got one up on many other people, even among independent content creators. Adherent of Lady Columbia. Thoughts on the debate on the lost cause myth that surrounds the Civil War? Seems like while Lincoln did do tyrannical actions, the South had both immoral and illegitimate separation claims. Yes, there were illegitimate claims to separation, absolutely. The South was ultimately not justified in what it did. That didn't justify many of the subsequent actions by the North, and it doesn't make Lincoln a hero. It's much more nuanced than anyone wants to admit. They don't want to get into it. Like, the only other person I think that has a bead on this one is Razor Fist. Fahrenheit 2020. Why do middle-aged, I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. Middle-aged, certain female individuals look like Dr. Fauci. Due to decrepitude, sickness of various kinds. Joker 1. Is the Artemis space project a giant waste of money just to boldly go where no diversity hire has gone before? No, I mean, I think it's good to go back to the moon. I support this. By the way, I do believe it was Donald Trump who freed up more funding for space exploration at the time, although he did disavow the concept of going back to the moon. I believe it was Donald Trump, and I believe it was even before him in the Obama era when the basic concept got off the ground. Naturally, Biden is taking credit for it. I'm pretty sure, though, it's Obama originated and Trump proposed, ultimately. Biden's on the moon every day, though. Mentally speaking, his head is already way up above the clouds. Hunter Wadley. Leftists are boisterous but unintelligent. I'd say 90 to 80 IQ on average. Even the... blue check marks. Mine is 113, and I was disappointed. Mine's supposedly 132. I'm disappointed by conservatives as well many times. Scott Jackson 117. Thoughts on SHIB 2024? I really hope that it gets off the ground. I would love to see him rant about turtles and guacamole and all of these things again. Can you remember how glorious that election was with all of the meme candidacies and the resulting actual memes? Oh boy, Jeb Bush is great. He's the one member of the Bush family that I don't think should face a military tribunal, actually, just because he's a goddamn court jester. Hunter Wadley, Jesus, this site is so censored. This is ridiculous. Yeah, I've got to be careful what I answer because I'm dual streaming to YouTube and Rumble. People can say much more on Rumble than they can on YouTube, but that doesn't mean that I can say it. Not without hazarding the stream. So yeah, we've got YouTube being encouraged to censor more people. That'll be really helpful. That's exactly what the creator community wants, by the way. Now we've got a huge cell phone. Representative Eric Swalwell, we mentioned him earlier. He was the one that suggested that he would be comfortable with nuking gun owners in the United States if they didn't hand in their AR-15s, which aren't weapons of war and can't take down an F-15, but you should give them up anyway, according to the Biden administration. Very confusing. A staffer of mine, who's 1 month into her job, unnamed of course, received a call from a man saying he is coming to our office with an assault rifle to kill me. I hesitate to share this. I call bullshit on this. But how else do I tell you we are in violent times? And the architects are Trump and McCarthy. Bloodshed is coming. Responding to this briefly, your dude Joe just threatened about a third to 40% of the entire country and insinuated that he would like to have them killed. So you might want to sit this one out. It's funny. Yes, a man claimed he was coming with an assault rifle to kill him. Sure he did. This really happened. Subject, threat received around 11:30 a.m. This is his follow-up. Asked me about where Congressman Swalwell is currently. Asked if he could talk to him. Went on a rant regarding gay issues. Said he is a gay man, but he doesn't take it up the ass. He gives it. This is a really realistic threat phone call, by the way. That's a quote. That's a fucking quote. I'm not making this up. Go to link in the description. Go and see it for your fucking self. I mean, it's live. I archived it because it's so hilarious, but it's still live. Mentioned he has guns and wants to fuck him up. Also made a statement saying he will come to the office or to wherever he is at to hurt him. He will bring guns, AR-15s, to the office to kill him and fuck him up. He said his name is, and the name is blanked out, so it could be anything. Looks like it'll be about 6 characters. On a second call, we got a minute 30-second recording of him using the F slur after he made the threat. His phone number is, and then it cuts off. This is massively confusing. So a dude called you up and said he's gay. He's a top. He only fucks men in the ass. He's going to come and kill you and stuff like that, but then was using the F slur. You can imagine what that is. A bundle of sticks slur. No pun intended. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I'm thinking that this is either a troll, and of course Swalwell probably realizes this. He's putting this out there, even though it might be pertinent to a literal criminal investigation for terroristic threat making, because either he didn't take it seriously or it never happened. That is, that his staffer didn't complain at all, and Eric Swalwell is fucking making it up. I would not be surprised if it's the latter. He has consistently been doing this. He is constantly putting out DMs that he receives, often while redacting the username, and they say all sorts of crazy off-the-wall shit. I sent him a few Andy 6 memes at one point. I personally disavow people sending crazy memes to him, by the way. Just to be clear, you should not message Eric Swalwell with the Andy 6 log of shit memes and clutter up his inbox. Hunter Wadley, yes, but Rumble Rants needs to fix the obvious problems. Salty has mods to clip them. I know you're a one-man team. This is unfortunate. Yeah. Well, I don't want the chats clipped or anything like that. I have no problem. It's just that if I'm dual streaming, I have to be more careful what I'm saying. And I'm not going to use mods like Salty does because I'm just against it personally. I look at it this way. Little mini rant here. I did this all myself. I realized there were many people that gave me a leg up, especially Sargon of Akkad with his due diligence video. No, Sargon, I haven't forgotten about that. I do owe you one in return. I think I shouted him out on several new tech sites in response. He got quite a boost, so I helped him in return. I realize that there are other creators and certainly people that subscribe and watch the content who have done a great deal to help me, sharing material out, talking about me even to people that they know in real life, debates and hosting and things like that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I've done this myself. It's my little creative empire that I've built. And it allows me the perfect latitude to talk about whatever I want, whenever I want to do it. One-man army, as you pointed out. I don't want any mods on my content. I would feel weird about having that because for so long, I've just done it all myself effectively. Creating every video, whenever there's editing, doing the editing myself. I had to learn the ropes of a dozen fucking different times. And so, yeah, I don't think that I would do that. It would just feel weird to me. It's sort of like after years and years of not having any form of contract or deal or anything like that, other than like people have sent me coffee and said, hey, taste this and maybe give it a shout out. That's fine. I'm not under any contracts or anything like that, although I've been offered ludicrous sums at times, to tell the truth. Even recently, I've had 5 or 6 offers this fucking summer as far as contractual shit goes. Tech firms, I'm not going to name names, but tech firms, individuals, etc., trying to get me aboard shows and streams and all sorts of things. Some of the sums are insane, actually. I never expected this to happen when I was just YouTubing years ago. And I basically have turned everything down and often just ignore the deals that are coming in because I've already got mine. I'm already doing exactly what I want. There may come a time at which I get a deal that's too good to refuse, but certainly it hasn't come yet. Cat Slave, Biden, worst president in history. Media needs breaking up. I don't want to break up the media. I just want to make sure that people know that they're, completely ridiculous and that nothing they say is true. Steve Watt, hello, Sticks. This is 50 more Australian dollars for your great idea of Biden loser units and Alzheimer's Adolf. Don't forget, Banana Republic Biden. I think that's the best one, actually. Should have a poll. Thank you very much. That'll buy a lot of diapers, by the way. How many Biden loser units are we actually at, to tell the truth? Let's see. That would be roughly 14 or 15 Biden loser units. Yeah, it's well above 5,000 cross-platform. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I really need a corporate contract when I can get this type of airplay. So yeah, poor Eric Swalwell. Poor dude. Jesus Christ. You're getting death threats constantly, and the first thing you do is tweet about them and put out, this material that carefully cuts off the end so we don't know that it was actually from a staffer. That's probably because Swalwell sent it himself. I have a feeling that it's horseshit. Why don't you just contact the goddamn FBI? You're a member of the House, right? You're a member of the House of Representatives. Contact the fucking FBI. They're clearly partisan, so they love you. Give it to them, and they'll trace it, and they'll do something about it. Putting this on here, if you're responding, by the way, to death threats against you, I've gotten them from time to time. It just emboldens other people to make them because they know they can get some attention. At some point, it's just trolls doing it for clout from behind 7 boxies. The Landlord Harassment Channel. I'm a DM you today. Please watch for it. Okay. Money Drip 6665. Dr. Zola. Accidents will happen. Hydra created a world so chaotic that humanity is finally ready to sacrifice its freedom to gain its security. I will never sacrifice mine. Hunter Wadley. Respect. Geo. He sent 10,000 COP and I have no clue what that is. So is that Croatia, maybe, or something? I don't know. I found an interesting government type in a novel. Eric Olafson, books by Vanessa Ravencroft. Government is described throughout the story. Interesting. Sketch Therapy. I love your mod policy. Mods can be evil infiltrators. Yeah, that's the other problem. What if you mod somebody and then they go crazy and they ban like thousands of people from your channel or something? Javine, thoughts on Calvin Coolidge from my home state of Vermont? Yeah, he was a cool motherfucker. One of the best presidents, actually, of the era. He did as little as possible. That's exactly what a president should do. Teapot Domicide, Michael Cricklow, I'm a one-man operation as well. Nothing like it. Yeah, when you can work for yourself, you're already so far above someone who has to work for a contract and mince their words. It must be exhausting. The Landlord Harassment Channel. By the way, do you like how I'm doing things over here? Yeah, seems fine. Yeah, but definitely DM me. I'll take a look at new content. I haven't gotten a chance in a few days because I've been so busy. The cat last night decided to wake me up at 4:30 in the morning. It was not fun. The next news story, the constitutional flaw that's killing American democracy. Oh my God, that sounds terrible. It's from The Atlantic, though, so we'll wade through this with a grain of salt or maybe a goddamn Saltberg. The recent set of, I'm not even going to bother reading through it. The basic long story short is that they want to amend the Constitution to make amending the Constitution easier because, the founders, they were outdated and we need more progress. So, we need to defend direct democracy. So fuck the Constitution and shit like that. And they talk about Bruin, and they talk about Roe, etc. And how the Supreme Court is making bad decisions that we don't agree with. So we need to expand the court. To do that, we need to expand the Constitution, too. Talking about the Affordable Care Act. I like this. It cut the legs from under the Affordable Care Act's Medicaid expansion in 2012 and from Voting Rights Act enforcement in 2013. They're talking about Citizens United. This could be addressed with legislation, but I don't see the legislatures, Republican or Democrat, clamoring to do so. Could it be because they get a huge amount of money from corporations? Please tell me how changing the Constitution would magically make that better. By the way, it's a DOA proposal, just like attempting to expand the court. The idea of a lot of the leftoids out there is that magically, if we can get our way, then we can get our way. But the problem is you can't get your way because you've got your head in the clouds. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about legally. Go ahead and try to expand the Constitution. See how easy it is. Yes, please get a majority of states, a bunch of red states on board with the idea of making it easier for you to unilaterally change the U.S. Constitution. I'm sure it'll go over really well. Steve Large sent $2. No comment. Thank you. Yeah, to share and lose, your cat wakes you up at 3 a.m. Yes, but the problem is when you also have a baby there, I'm an insomniac. So the cat decides to attack her sister, wakes everyone up. Other than the baby, she was half awoken and goes upstairs. She's attacking her sister in the middle of the night. She's going to be sequestered in a different room, by the way, from now on because of this, because I've had it at 4:30. The problem is when the baby is partially roused out of sleep, she spends an extended period of time fussing. When she is fussing, I will not be able to sleep. I spent probably an hour laying there waiting for her to sort of nod back off. And I just can't do that. I've got too much fucking work to do. I've got the one-off videos, the live streams, the editing, the writing, going to the store, cooking food, going out for walks, taking care of the baby. It's a little bit too much when you don't have proper sleep. So we've decided that the cat has to go to a different location at night till she calms her jets. She's in cat prison. Pussy prison. The Patriot Shiro. My retired FBI neighbor says Biden is a body double. Also, Medicare debt bubble will be far worse than student loan debt. Will tank the economy worse. Yeah, there's a lot of debt bubbles that might come due very soon. I do not believe that Biden is a body double, though. I think that he is an aficionado of having plastic surgery. He's had hair plugs before. He's had at least one chin job, a facelift. I think he had a nose job at some point. He had some work done on the side of his face. He's had 5 or 6 operations minimum. Hillary Clinton is basically the same. Gary Jean, wish Democrats would secede with a few states. We can watch them fall apart and not be impacted by it. I'll bring the popcorn. I do not believe in any form of secession whatsoever. Gowanfall, MAGA, one day there will be a world government that only protects nations that provide resources and money. Poor nations that the world government sucks dry will no longer be protected and there will be rebellion and chaos. Yeah, they're trying to create a world in which everyone is effectively a slave but thinks that they're not. That's basically the long story short of globalism. BW, Pixel Planet drives me nuts. Why can I only do 4 pixels at a time? Thanks for getting me hooked. I wish Repubs would shore up the Constitution, limit our Supreme Court, then impeach Biden if they get majority. They are angling to impeach Joe Biden, and they will get the House, so they are capable of doing so. However, they cannot remove him from office because they will not have enough votes in the Senate, even if they take it narrowly. Although, with what Herschel Walker is doing with his polling, it's possible that they will take the Senate by a vote or two. There's not going to be a blue wave in the Senate or anything like that. The Nicholas Bowling Show. I run an independent news site, and I interviewed more candidates than Bongino, Crowder, and other big conservative platforms. Why aren't they doing more? Well, I mean, they've got to polish up their shows, and they, talk about whatever they want to. I like to believe that they talk about what they wish to do, sort of like I do. Mitch James. Will Republicans take the Senate and House, and will there be more fortification of elections? They will take the House. The Senate is 50-50, as it always has been. I've been saying that for months. It's funny, there are some people that are claiming that, well, the Republicans were slated to take the Senate, but now recently, because of evil Donald Trumpler, it looks like that won't happen. They were never slated to take the Senate. There was always a 50-50 chance. As far as fortification, there will be attempts, but they will be less prevalent than they were in past elections. In my opinion, the fortification thing is failing, actually. Mainly because of the efforts of Steve Bannon. Mitch James, will Republicans... Oh, I just did that one. Sorry. Oh, wait, no, you sent it twice. You might be able to get one of those super chats back, by the way, Mitch James. I'll answer it again. Yeah, there'll be fortification. Republicans will take the House. Next. New York Times amplifies misinformation groups' talking points to smear Truth Social as a QAnon haven. At this point, I'm convinced that anyone that's still grifting off the QAnon thing is a liberal in disguise. If they're still talking about trusting the plan and all this shit, if they haven't learned their fucking goddamn lesson at this point, I have no time for them. To those few of you out there who still believe in the QAnon thing being real, Nostradamus style, please Please just relent. Repent of this incorrectness that you are dealing with, because you are incorrect. There is no QAnon. It's a liberal LARP, and it was originally designed to keep Republicans from knocking on doors. Just trust the plan. We'll handle it. You don't need to do the work. Go be lazy. Go and make another post on Twitter. That was the entire point of it. And the idea that Truth Social is a haven for QAnon conspiracy theories, well, number one, who cares? Number two, who trusts NewsGuard of all fucking possible groups? Listen, NewsGuard, a media watchdog that analyzes the credibility of news outlets, found 88 users promoting the QAnon conspiracy theory on Truth Social, each to more than 10,000 followers. The Times wrote in the second paragraph, of those accounts, 32 were previously banned by Twitter. The latter means absolutely nothing. Some of them are there because they were banned by Twitter. Did you bother going to Gab or Parler or Getter, number one, or Minds for that matter, to analyze them? Of course not. This is an attack on Truth Social because Trump happens to be there directly. Secondly, why should we take you seriously? Number three, how do you define promoting? Can you show us your homework? I would like to see what promoting actually means. Referring to something loosely ascribed to the QAnon trend? Well, maybe, maybe not. We're not entirely sure. They're not giving us any evidence here. Heaven forbid users banned from Twitter, including the former president himself, build and use an alternative platform. Exactly. They have an opinion. They want to make it known. They did what you told them to. You said, go make your own Twitter if you don't like it. So they made their own Twitter. And, now you constantly perturb them and antagonize them anyway. C Daddy Gaming. Thoughts on SpaceX occult ritual behaviors on launch day? Would their success be partially accredited to occult energies of some kind? No. Humans engaging in ritual behavior does not mean that it's a cult. Every time that you pray, it's a ritual behavior. It doesn't mean that it does anything. Cat Slave, it's shocking how bad a mess Biden is in. Impeach soon. As a UK citizen, I hate to imagine 2 more Biden years for the world. Yeah, the UK is getting hammered by fuel prices right now. Jesus. I talked about that this morning. It's going to affect the U.S. economy. If there was any doubt that Q3 will be negative, look at what's happening in Europe. You think that lack of demand isn't going to spill over into U.S. markets? No, if you can't sell the product, if manufacturing in the U.S. drops, naturally there'll be less people employed, less purchasing power by businesses and by their employees. It's self-evident. It's definitely going to happen. Cousin Vinny, what makes us think our efforts will make a difference in the far future? All it'll take is another pandemic and we're all back to being subjugated. You can't fool people over and over like that so easily. Mitch James, why do you reckon there won't be a big majority in the House and Senate for Republicans after the constant failures of the Dems, particularly Biden? Well, the Senate was always closer. The Republicans have to guard more races than they can go after. And several of the candidates, notably Mehmet Oz, are weak. That's just the truth. The Republicans may not be able to retake the Senate, but in the House, I would say 30 vote majority at a minimum, roughly 25 to 30, which is huge. It's considerable swing in the votes that entails, to be 37 or something actual switch seats. I think it could be higher than that, and that would be more likely than it being lower. So the House will go heavily Republican. If the Senate doesn't go Republican at all, it'll be held up on a goddamn pedestal by the legacy media to say, look at the failure of MAGA. You can practically write the news stories yourself. The Patriot Chiro. It's Shiro, Kiro, like chiropractor. No janker here, but a humble clanker. Harvesting sweet potatoes today from my Southwest Florida garden. They love heat. Sweet potatoes are good. I cook them Cajun style. Cut them up into little pieces, after you get the skin off, and put them in the oven. Lots and lots of butter. Don't use seed oil. Use butter, trust me, and it affects the flavor in a really good way. Some celery salt and some chili powder and whatever the fuck else you want to add. You can add any herbs you want. I find a little bit of tarragon is a good idea. Just try it sometime. C Daddy Gaming. I'm surprised to hear you say occult ritual behavior doesn't do anything. That is not what I said. Would have thought just the mental focus alone would count like a tulpa. Occult ritual behavior can affect things. That does not mean that any behavior that seems ritualistic is authentically occult, is what I meant. Next story. China shuts down world's largest electronics market as Shenzhen imposes more lockdowns. China's southern city of Shenzhen on Monday shut down the world's largest electronics market and suspended public transport nearby as authorities enforced neighborhood-wide lockdowns in response to a small number of COVID cases. Huaqianbai, I'm definitely butchering that pronunciation, a busy shopping area home to thousands of stalls selling computer components, mobile phone parts, and microchips, and probably children and stolen things, is among 3 neighborhoods placed under a mandatory 4-day lockdown in Futian district, according to the district government. Residents in those neighborhoods are forbidden to leave their homes, except for COVID testing, which they are required to undergo daily until Thursday. There must be one hell of a goddamn black market in China, by the way, at this point. All businesses in the affected areas are shut down through Thursday, except for supermarkets, pharmacies, and hospitals. Restaurant dining is also suspended, with only takeaways allowed. How are you supposed to get to your takeaway if you can't leave your house, would be my guess. They're not exactly answering this. China is one of the last places in the world still enforcing stringent zero COVID measures, which will not work, which rely on sweeping digital surveillance, mass testing, extensive quarantines, and snap lockdowns. At this point, China is not doing it for health purposes. It is doing it for political purposes. If they find out that 2 or more are gathered criticizing the Chinese government, they'll just lock down the neighborhood. They find it funny. They don't give a fucking shit. They don't care about what happens to the Chinese economy because the people leading the economy there have investments all over the world. They're part of the globalism at this point. I still love it when people think that China or Russia are separate from the globalist WEF thing. Oh, I goddamn love it. People are so goddamn retarded sometimes. Mitch James, do you believe in God? Thoughts on prayer? I am apatheistic, so I don't care about whether there's a god or goddess or pantheon or anything like that. It's unknowable, and therefore I don't bother thinking about it. As far as prayer, yeah, it can work in a general sense. Even if you only believe in placebo effect, still, you can calm yourself down. You can think things will be more positive. Therefore, you make more positive actions, and therefore things are more likely to turn out positive. I think prayer can be good for many people. I don't pray myself because I would personally find it useless, but when other people do, who cares? It doesn't offend me. Some people still think I'm anti-Christian because I criticize organized religion. Yeah, me criticizing megachurches is totally about Jesus Christ. Now, the last news story, does Mitch McConnell even want to win in November? This is from the Washington Times. Because he's come out and said that, the Senate, but we've got weak candidates and I don't think that we can make it. Let me answer this question really simply. No, Mitch McConnell does not want to win the Senate. It goes beyond simply being pessimistic. Mitch McConnell realizes that in the coming years, MAGA is going to continue to grow. He is not going to be welcome as Senate Majority Leader if the Republicans gain a Senate majority. He will probably be forced aside. He's also old and tired, and, at some point you got to fucking call it quits. He should learn from Bernie Sanders, who had his heart thing a couple of years ago and for some reason is still seeking office. Here's the fact. Mitch McConnell is incapable of governing the current Republican Party. Even if he manages to maintain his Senate Majority Leader, he will face constant reprisals from all the MAGA Republicans that are there, as well as from across in the other chamber, in the House, as well as from local and state activists. He represents the past of the party. So he does not want the Senate to be won. It gives him plausible deniability if the Democrats maintain at least a 50-50 seating arrangement in the Senate, because he's not majority leader. Therefore, he can say, well, these out-of-control MAGA people are the ones that denied us the Senate. He'll cast the blame on them, as he will if that occurs, and there's no guarantee, but it's likely. He'll cast the blame on them, and he'll cry about it. And at the end of the day, he doesn't have to do his job like he hasn't been doing it for years anyway, because he doesn't have control of the Senate. He's not majority leader. If the Republicans take the Senate and you still have that group of MAGA Republicans there vying with the neocons so that he can't get anything accomplished and can't get any decorum going on, he looks weak. He ends his career looking like a complete pathetic moron. Mitch McConnell doesn't want that. That's exactly why he's doing whatever he can without actively and transparently doing it to throw the Senate races in the midterms. I would say you should definitely vote GOP, but not straight GOP. You should definitely make sure that you know roughly what these people are standing for, as opposed to just saying, hey, you've got an R after your name. Well, I'm going to vote for you. Yeah, I mean, the liberals do that all the time. See how well it works out for them. They can't even tell the difference between AOC and Joe Manchin until CNN tells them so. Gonfall, I hope the people in China rebel in China and bring capitalism and freedom in. It will be chaos at first, but like fires burning down trees, new trees grow. We're a long ways off from that level of revolution, but we're not long off from China collapsing into recession. Roberto Gonzalez, China's military isn't voluntary, so morale is low. Yeah, look at their MREs sometime. Nutrient bars and some rice. That's basically it. Mitch James, thoughts on magic. Magic does exist. Dashing Gaspar, hey Sticks, I hope you're well. What do you think about Pharaoh Joe's crocodile tears and continued pursuit of assault weapons ban? I think that Biden realizes that won't happen, and he's doing that for bravado among the leftoids before the midterms. Basically, everything you see in politics right now is posturing. There's not a whole lot of doing. It's mostly just a bunch of fucking talking. That goes for many people on the other side of the aisle, too, just to be clear. Alan, anti-state. Why do so many of us libertarians equate not trusting the U.S. government with licking Chinese and Russian boots? I don't know why. People, they've got a football team mentality, and they were told by CNN or Fox or something that two things were linked, and so they just passively absorb it, I guess. It's crazy. Sebastian Monroe. Mitch's sentiment is a flashback I had. 2016, when I was a college Republican. The words, unfortunately, Trump from a GOP chair was enough for me to end my affiliation with them and turned independent. Now, this is why I never joined the Republican Party. They would rather lose than stand on any principles. Funkface, why don't you interact with your Kiwi Farms thread? Because that would be stupid. I don't go for internet e-drama sort of, I don't go for that sort of stuff. It's a little bit like General Hospital or another soap opera, but for e-celebs. Joe, Biden seems to forget that it is the U.S. military that trained hundreds of thousands of U.S. veterans, and we're still damn good at the pew-pew. Yeah, it'd be interesting, veterans versus active forces. See, most of those veterans have combat experience. I think it would be a bloodbath. The Landlord Harassment Channel, I just saw Magic do an interview. He does exist. Matt Wolter, have elitists weaponized credentialism through cancel culture? I don't know. But cancel culture does need to be canceled at some point. It's funny because I can't remember the name. There was one leftoid on Twitter, one of the blue checkmark people, who was talking about how teens should be able to have like transgendered surgery and hormone blockers for kids and stuff, getting owned the entire time, and then was like rambling about the fact that people calling her out were engaging in cancel culture. I find this very funny, and using terms like snowflake and stuff, it's almost like cultural appropriation. Leftoid cultural appropriation rather, because they can't create anything themselves. Just a second here. Anyway, I'm going to go offline. We've gone over an hour and gotten plenty of things in. So please, no more super chats. If you're typing one up, just delete that out. Wait until tomorrow. Don't worry. I will do live streams pretty much every day from here on out. And remember, we will be going live on the midterms with Sleazy P. Martini himself. We had 6,000 people watching live today and almost 6,500 yesterday. So I have a feeling the midterms are going to be lit. One last one. The Patriot Chiro pondering. Does the left make you perverted, or are perverted people attracted to the left? Seems so. I think mostly the latter. I have a feeling that it's just people that are lazy, perverted, parasitical are going to tend to gravitate towards things that enable their laziness and parasitism. I don't think that the fact that they joined it made them that way, because that's the entire ethos. The entire ideology is already that way. And so they had to have gravitated towards it for a reason. So they were already like that. They didn't get impacted by it. They were already part of it and then realized that they were a socialist. That's about all. Peace out.